the most powerful empire in human history, the one that conquered 3 continents and enslaved 1 million people, had its greatest monuments designed by a slave. The Pantheon, still standing, still perfect, still pulling tourists off every street in Rome. That building was not the vision of an emperor. It was the vision of a Syrian prisoner of war, and the moment his protector died, Rome killed him for it. His name was Apollodorus of Damascus. And this is the story Rome tried very hard to erase. 83 AD. Roman legions sweep through Syria. Damascus falls. Among the captured is a young engineer, educated in both Hellenistic and Eastern building traditions, trained to see structures the way a composer hears music, not just what a building looks like, how it breathes, how it holds. The Romans had a habit. When they conquered a place, they killed the soldiers and absorbed the talent. Apollodorus was too gifted to execute, so instead, they took everything else, his city, his freedom, his name as anything other than property, and put him to work. It was not like the Roman-born architects of his era. They knew columns. Apollodorus knew forces. He understood load paths and compression the way other men understood breathing. That difference was about to matter enormously, because somehow this Syrian prisoner ends up in the direct orbit of the most powerful man on earth. Trajan becomes emperor in 98 AD with a very specific problem. He wants to outbuild every Caesar before him, not decorate Rome, transform it. Roman architecture wasn't decoration. It was propaganda in stone. Every arch, every column said the same thing. We are permanent. We are inevitable. You cannot outlast us. But Trajan didn't need someone to copy Greek columns and call it genius. He needed someone who could engineer the impossible, build things that had never been built, in places they had never been built, under conditions that would make a modern contractor quit on day 2. Apollodorus becomes Trajan's personal architect, which sounds like a promotion. And it was, professionally. He had resources, authority, scale, but he was still property. His genius made him indispensable. It never made him free. Only one man at that table could act on that fact. 105 AD. Trajan is fighting the Dacian Wars across the Danube River, modern-day Romania. He needs to move 100,000 soldiers and their supplies across a wild, hostile river in the middle of a combat zone. He calls Apollodorus. Apollodorus builds a bridge, not a small bridge. 1,135 meters long. 20 stone arches. Timber superstructure. Built in 2 years over a river that did not cooperate, in territory actively trying to kill the construction crew. When it was finished, the Roman Senate reportedly thought the numbers were wrong. They weren't. That bridge would not be equaled in length for over 1,000 years. A man builds the longest bridge on Earth in the middle of a war, and the record stands for a millennium, using Roman concrete, timber, and a mine that operated on a different frequency than everyone around him. The bridge was so good it scared people. When Hadrian became emperor, he had it destroyed. Not because it failed, but because he feared an enemy could use it to invade Rome. The greatest compliment an engineer can receive is having their work demolished out of fear. Apollodorus got that compliment, and the bridge made him a legend. So Trajan handed him an even bigger problem: redesign Rome itself. Trajan's Forum. This is where Apollodorus stops being impressive and starts being something else entirely. To build it, he doesn't work around the existing landscape. He carves a hill out of it, literally excavates a ridge between the Quirinal and Capitoline hills, 30 meters of earth moved by hand to create flat ground for his vision. And at the center of that forum, Trajan's column, 30 meters tall, a continuous spiral frieze, 200 meters of carved stone wrapping upward, depicting the entire Dacian campaign. Every soldier, every battle, every river crossing. It is a 2,000-year-old comic strip, a war documentary in marble, still standing in Rome right now. Apollodorus wasn't just designing buildings, he was writing Roman identity in stone, deciding what the empire looked like to itself, how it remembered its own story. Thousands of tourists photograph Trajan's column every single day. Almost none of them know a Syrian slave designed it. His name isn't on anything. It never was. Then Trajan dies, 117 AD, and everything, every protection, every privilege, every reason Rome tolerated a foreign slave with too much influence, dies with him. Hadrian, sophisticated, insecure, fancied himself an architect. Years before he became emperor, he had shown Apollodorus some building sketches. Amateur stuff. The hobby of a powerful man who wanted to be told he was talented. Apollodorus looked at them and told Hadrian to, quote, "Go away and draw his pumpkins." That line was so brutal that ancient historians wrote it down. Hadrian never forgot. Men like Hadrian never do. The moment he became emperor, Apollodorus had no protection left. No Trajan, no shield. Just a foreign slave with a legendary reputation, powerful enemies, and a very famous quote floating around the Senate. Hadrian exiled him first, then had him executed. The official reason recorded by ancient historians. Apollodorus criticized Hadrian's design of the Temple of Venus. The real reason was simpler and uglier. He knew too much. He was too respected, and he had once humiliated exactly the wrong man in exactly the wrong room. But here's what Hadrian could never kill. The Pantheon. Completed under Hadrian's reign, his name on the inscription, his legacy in the history books. Except historians have been arguing about this for decades, because the engineering of that building does not match anything Hadrian's circle could have produced. The dome, 43.3 meters in diameter, made of Roman concrete in graduated layers, heavy aggregate at the base, pumice stone near the top to manage compression forces that would collapse any simpler design. The oculus at the crown, open to the sky, functions as both light source and structural release valve. These are not amateur solutions. These are Apollodorus solutions. The mathematical proportions, the concrete composition, the way the structure handles its own weight, all consistent with his known methods and completely inconsistent with any other Roman architect of the period. Many historians now believe he designed the Pantheon before his execution. That Hadrian built it anyway and put his own name on it, which means every photo you've ever seen of the Pantheon, every film, every painting, every travel post, every architecture textbook. You've been looking at the work of a man Rome tried to delete from history. His geometry survived. His name almost didn't. The Pantheon has stood for 1,900 years. It is the best preserved ancient building on Earth. Every dome structure that came after traces its DNA directly back to that building. Brunelleschi's Florence Cathedral, 1,400 years later, same principles. St. Peter's Basilica. The US Capitol. They are all downstream of one mind. Apollodorus of Damascus built the longest bridge on Earth. He redesigned an entire city. He may have solved a structural problem so difficult that no one attempted it again for 13 centuries. Rome enslaved him, used him, and executed him. The empire that owned him collapsed in 476 AD. His geometry is still holding up the sky. History has a way of remembering the people power tries to erase, not because justice always wins, but because great work outlasts the men who take credit for it. Hadrian's name is on the building, but it's Apollodorus's dome that's still standing. If you want more stories about the people history forgot to mention, you know what to do.